Okay, we are live. This is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. I'm attorney Vince Davis, and I have two very special guests on today's show, Ariel and Nick. Good morning, you guys.
Good morning.
What state are you guys coming from?
South Carolina.
Oh, South Carolina.
Yes.
Now, is Asheville in North Carolina or South Carolina?
North Carolina.
Okay. What city and county are you in South Carolina?
We're in Greenville County.
Okay, very good. Now, so you're on the show. I assume that there is some CPS issue. So why don't you tell me when that started and what that's all about?
Well, I don't know if you remember last time when we came on the show a couple months ago, back in December. Um, but one of the things I wanted to ask you a question. Um, we recently had a court hearing regarding about our children. They were placed in foster care, and they've been in foster care since May of last year. Um, with that being said, my sister, you know, offered to take them in. It's not the ideal placement that we wanted them to be because those my family, those were the ones that called CPS on us, and um, my son ended up getting sexually abused by the grandfather, and it just wasn't really like appropriate place. But and I shared my concerns with CPS and the guardian ad litem, um, and it didn't matter because I told him that it would, she would, uh, bring the grandfather around my son, the one that allegedly sexually abused them in the first place. Um, but that was the only problem as far as like placement goes. But they end up giving her kinship care. Um, I think they want to go for guardian as well, and pretty much be relieved of services. You want to add anything? Okay. Trying to think. But oh yeah, but my question was, I got a letter in the mail from family court, um, and it was only directed towards me about child support, but it was saying that the kids are in foster care. So, and it's it has a court date for me to appear in court. So I don't know. It said it was recently filed. So yeah. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm licensed here in California, but they have that same thing going on here. If your children are in foster care, you could be liable to pay child support. Now, one of the things that there is a law, actually, a lot of people don't know about it in California. I don't know if you have the same thing in North or South Carolina. And that is, if a child's being placed with a relative, you usually don't have to pay child support. So I don't know if you have that, but if you don't, or if just with some regular strange foster parent, the county can try to collect child support from you. All the counties don't do it routinely, um, but it is a possibility that something that you might be liable for.
Right. Yeah, I was just curious about that because it didn't make any sense to me. I don't know if it was something that was filed kind of like in a delay, and it's just now catching up. I don't know, but it was only made out to me, which was weird.
Yeah, I haven't received the letter yet, and we don't really understand that. I'm not sure.
I would not complain about that if I were you.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm not holding my breath. I'm still waiting for one to pop in the mail. He seems
what? One of the things that you might want to do is you might want to check with an attorney in your state about these child support issues. I don't know how they compute child support in South Carolina, but in California they use a formula, a computer formula, and every state is different. You know, in California, depending on how much you make, the child support that you could end up paying could be substantial. So
in most cases that you know of, I know you said every state's different, which I understand that part, but in most cases, like with the relative thing, is that usually the case that they don't pay? That's not our concern. We were just trying to figure out what's going on with that, and also about the TPR thing. That takes it off the.
Yeah, we had another question. The TPR, since they're placed with a relative, that's the cards are off the table of that, correct?
no, not at all.
Really?
Yeah, they can still TPR you and have grandma or grandpa adopt the kids, which, in my personal opinion, is kind of sick. Like, why would you want to make grandma and grandpa mom and dad?
Right.
And it's only, in my opinion, because of money reward to the county and or to the foster parent.
Okay.
You know, I remember you from before, and I'm sitting here thinking, I'm looking at both of you thinking you seem like a nice, normal couple. Like, why don't they have their kids?
Yeah, we're wondering the same thing. We were, rewarded back our children just last year. We did all the, reunifications and services that they wanted us to do because the case started with CPS was in 2021, 2021. So it's been going on since that long.
Mr. Davis, I don't know if you remember us. We told you so much. I'm sure you have so many cases here day in and day out. But we were telling you about the ex parte, the emergency ex parte that they put out, and yeah, because the kids had come home, like you were saying. So yeah.
But what I don't get is, I'm looking at you, and I'm thinking, like, what are they accusing you of for not having your children?
Well, the issue was again for unsuccessful return was because my son is testing positive still for drugs.
Or he did one time.
He did one time, and that was in the very beginning of the case.
The other did not test
positive. But which was weird. This time when we were all sent for our last drug testing. Because our case was set for auto close the end of May.
Upon their drug screens coming back good.
Correct.
And my 2-year-old at the time, he's 3 now. They're brothers. They're around each other day in, day out, and that child tested clean.
Well,
as I did, and he,
Have you asked for a retest?
We did not.
We did not, and we honestly didn't even know if we could even, do that.
Yeah, we didn't.
Well, do you have attorneys?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so you need to talk to your attorney about retest. I know, and I believe this is a federal law. I may be mistaken, but if you are given a drug test under federal regulations, you have to have the opportunity to ask for a retest. And they're supposed to tell you that, but they never do, because drug testing is not 100% accurate. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I'm aware. Yeah.
So there's and most tests, and sometimes this gets higher depending on the testing and the procedures that are used. There's a plus or minus 5% of error. And, over the years that I've done this, I've talked to many people who swear that they didn't use any drugs and they tested positive. I've talked to people that have used drugs and have tested negative. So, it's that plus or minus error.
Right.
So you should definitely talk to your attorneys about doing a retest. And I think they have to keep the samples under federal law for a certain amount of time. It's kind of a long time, because if it's important, like you're going to go to jail or going to lose your kids, the feds want to make sure that nothing crazy is going on, and that's why they give you that extra protection. There's different types of tests that they do, and they're always coming up with new ones, I hear. But the general one was the urinalysis, right? And then there is the blood test, which in our state is illegal. And then there's the hair follicle test, which is illegal unless you don't object to it. A lot of people, the judge says, oh, go take a hair follicle test, and nobody says anything. Generally, when I'm on a case, not all the time though, but generally I'll say, objection, it's unconstitutional. And they look at me like I'm, an alien.
We've been having our hair cut out since
2021.
summertime.
The first.
What I would do is I would go get some type of test. Talk to your attorneys about this, of course, and to try to show the judge that you're not using drugs. I don't know why your son would be testing positive. It could be he's around drugs. It could be a lot of other reasons too. A lot of other reasons.
The other child not testing positive and being equally with that same sibling all the time, every day where he was at, the other child was, and
yeah,
it just doesn't make any sense.
If they were exposed to any drugs, they would both. You would think both of them would.
I mean, I know the children's exposure test is a little bit different than what they would give us for a hair follicle, but nonetheless, it was still a hair follicle test.
Wait a minute. They gave your kid an exposure test?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's. I've actually read about those. That's it's inherently not reliable.
That's what they had.
Yeah, that's what
both times.
They did a hair follicle on the tooth. And see, the thing was, when we got our kids back, I got a text from the caseworker saying, "All right, this was right when it was about to close." She said, "Okay, I need you, Ariel, and the boys to go submit to one last drug screening before we close out the case." And I immediately, emailed my lawyer, and I was like, look, I don't mind taking a test, but it in the court order, it only states, from the whole time of the case, that me and Ariel are subject to random drug screening within 24 hours, anytime that they request by DSS or the GAL. But it doesn't state anything about my children happen to submit to one as well. So I emailed my lawyer, and I was like, and he looked over the court order, and he's like, yeah, you're right. There's nothing that states the children, but he was saying that, pretty much if you make an issue about it, basically,
with a drug,
correct, that DSS is more likely to file some type of petition and bring us back to court to make the children go drug test. I don't know. That's what he was advising me at the time.
And it might be legitimate advice. Every lawyer is different. I want to tell you something on that exposure test. This is how unreliable it is. If you and I were in the same building, but not in the same office, but the ventilation system is connected. If you were smoking a cigarette, in some circumstances, that smoke will reach into the room or part of the building that I'm in. So the exposure, test is inherently just unreliable, right? Because there's so many things that could happen. You could have been at the grocery store, pushing a basket at somebody that had used meth earlier, touched and your kid touches it, well, now the kid's exposed.
The thing is Sebastian, or I'm sorry, my son's test was so high that it was alarming.
That's what they
Me,
claim.
and I still do not
Well,
get it. And Casper tested 0.
well,
I just don't understand.
that's why you have to have it retested. And your
Especially-
lawyer should do maybe some research on those exposure tests and try to convince the judge that he shouldn't be using them.
Yeah, I don't know if it's I don't know if it's too late in the game for that, because I mean that was just May 20 something of last year.
You know, it may not be, but it costs you nothing to find out.
Right.
But if you're, I mean, who has the kids?
Well,
His sister.
as of right now, my sister. They've been with her now for a month.
Mhm.
Do you get along with your sister?
No, that's the thing. They were removed.
She's the one that called on us.
Yeah, she was the one that called CPS on us. From the and it was all a personal issue between with us. So she wanted to felt the need to sabotage, and she works for a like a pediatric office, and we would get like little like threats from my mother, like basically saying, such and such. I can't say any names. My sister is required by law to report any,
because she's unregistered.
abuse or whatever. Basically just kind of hinting around like, hey, we're about to call DSS on you. So my whole family
she works in healthcare, so she has the right to do it. She needs to do it.
They did a lot of sick things.
That's how she made it, and that's what happened with that.
Well, let me ask you this: since it was since May, and you guys are continuing in the services,
we finished services and completed them. We're about to restart taking them. We're gonna go again and see what happens. I don't know.
Oh, Mr. Davis, that's the thing. We're not even. They're not even offering any services since they already offered them. The last time, and we completed them.
Mm-hmm.
But what they're doing is, if we choose to do services on our own, then we can do that. But other than that, they're not offering any services.
Well, if you do the services on your own and continue showing the clean tests, I'm sure that there's something in your state where you can file to get back in the game, get the kids back.
That's what we're hoping for.
In California, it's called a 388 petition, and you can file it to get more family reunification services. You can file it to get better visitation, more frequency, more duration, supervised versus unsupervised. So that's what I would suggest. You know what? A lot of people that I talk to confidentially say this about those drug tests, that they are somehow intentionally manipulated.
Yeah.
And I've even had allegations of people tell me that the social worker reported them testing dirty. And then when they actually got the results from the drug testing facility, they were negative. So it was just false reporting by the social worker. So, I mean, there are many different avenues you have to look at and look into. If your son had such a high exposure to methamphetamine, believe me, he'd be doing weird shit. Right?
All right.
You'd know it.
Oh, yeah.
So how could he be just a normal kid and have a high exposure? Somebody either lied or made an error.
He has ADHD and does not take a stimulant medication. So
it wouldn't be for that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you never know. I mean, the possibilities are endless. But you guys should just be looking into it if you know that this is a false report.
It just doesn't. I mean, like like 1 and 1 obviously does not equal 7. It just doesn't add up in our world, in our land. Like just because of Casper, and he knows, and I know, both in our hearts where we were every day, and it just does not make sense. It really doesn't.
Right.
And
So you can't just accept it, though. You have to look into it.
yeah,
Talk to your attorneys to investigate it. If I were you guys, I'd be a freaking expert in drug exposure testing just from Google. There's a lot of scientific studies on this that people publish on Google and on YouTube. So look into it. Share that information with your lawyers. But I fear that you guys aren't doing anything, and you're just letting the ball roll.
Saying that we aren't doing anything is a little bit far from what the case is with us, and it may seem like that we have not given up. We're not giving up, and we're kind of just at a loss for trying to figure out what to scramble to do next, because either our lawyer won't do the 388 after we've listened to you, or either I have no confidence in the caseworker. I've been trying to basically kiss his sister's butt to be able to privately see my children, and I did. I met up with her at the park, and I've been having to fake it till I make it with her on the phone, because I want my children in my life, and I want to be able to see them, and we wouldn't have seen them yet if I hadn't have done that.
How old are the kids?
6 and 3. He's turning 7 in February.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you 3 things to do right now. Okay, number 1, become an expert as much as you can on drug exposure testing. Google, YouTube. Okay. There's an old saying, Google knows all. Now, everything on Google is not going to be true, but try to find enough in different sources. At least find out what the issues are that you can talk to your attorney about. Number 2, ask your attorney, him or her, to file. Now, I'm sure it's not called a 388 in South Carolina. It's called something else. But one of the shows that we did, a couple of them, one of the co-hosts, Cassandra Woodard, found a website that translates laws between states. So you could plug in the California law and look what it's called in other states. For example, South Carolina, and vice versa. Okay, so try to find that show where Cassandra did it, or watch tomorrow. Cassandra will be on the show at 7 p.m. And,
Would she be mad if I messaged her and asked her what the website was?
Go ahead. So that's number 2. Number 3, you might want to have a free or low-cost consult with another lawyer in your town to find out what's going on. Just because your attorney won't do anything doesn't mean you're dead in the water. You go talk to another attorney. Okay?
I agree.
It may seem like that we're not really doing anything, but oh my God, I feel so tired of being tired, but I can't stop. I can't.
Yeah, we're never going to give up. We're glad that our children are out of foster care, but at the same time, it's just the placement. But what our main focus is, honestly, I've put my feelings aside.
Basically, we had 2 options. It was either they get adopted by foster care, or
pretty much,
they go with
because they were actually,
they said that CPR would be taken off the table.
That's what they said. The judge and the caseworker and all them, they said that going with the relative takes the TPR off the table, and that's pretty much.
That's not true.
I don't know. That's what they were saying.
Latest news from
that was the latest news. But as I was saying,
Here's the things that I tell people. Now, this may not be your situation. It may not be your lawyer's advice, but I don't like my clients to talk to social workers unless I'm there, because they'll say shit that's not true.
Yeah.
Then they'll say it sometimes by mistake,
He
or they'll
emails me
say it
all the
just to,
time.
or they'll say it just to lie to you. I don't know when that's happening,
Yes.
but because your sister has the kids, it does not take TPR off the table. Let me give you an example. She could take TPR off the table as far as she's concerned. The judge may have a different idea. The minor's attorney may have a different idea. Now, then where are you? Oh,
Yeah.
well, the social worker said it was off the table. Too damn bad. It's back on the table.
Right.
So what you should be focusing on is getting these kids back.
Yes. Agreed. That's what I was about to say.
You know, he was watching your show one night, and it kind of like was a snap to him. I noticed he had such a different opinion after the show had went off. I don't remember which one it was. Well, I do, but I'm not going to go into all that. Anyways, after he listened to your show, it was crazy because like he was dead set in what his goal was, and nobody was going to stop him, and it was, against his sister. And he just hates them with a passion, but
I don't know that. Yeah, that pretty much it was because I was going to end up asking you the question anyway, and on the video that you did, kind of basically answered my question, kind of thing, like just focus on the getting the kids back, and if basically if something happened, like fighting too much with the relative could cause some, where the children end up getting removed, and then I lose my kids forever, and it wouldn't really benefit me. In my mind, I'm thinking, well, maybe that would be a chance to get my kids back if they got removed from her, because I've been telling, the caseworker that, that's not a safe or appropriate placement for them.
You have to talk to your lawyer, but having conversations with a caseworker is never a good thing. Yeah. And I'll tell you why. Number one, it's another human being who's not perfect. She might mistakenly write down something that's incorrect or intentionally. She may not like you. I met with a guy yesterday in my office. He's a client. And he was showing me texts from the social worker. I was flabbergasted. Here's a lady that doesn't like my client and ain't afraid to say so in text messages. So I immediately messaged my paralegal, and I said, "Hey, on Monday, I want you to file a motion to get this social worker disqualified and get a new social worker appointed." Now, he had been telling me for a couple of weeks that the lady doesn't like him, and I'm kind of like, well, are you sure? He says, "Let me come in and show you my text messages." He came in yesterday. I was shocked.
He wasn't lying, was he?
Yeah. And you would think the social worker would be smarter than that. I mean, text messages that he's going to save forever. So we spent about an hour and a half together, basically copying the text messages to drop them in the motion to say to the judge, this is how she communicates and what she says to my client. I think we need a new social worker.
Right.
So, I mean, but you never know. And from listening to you guys today, you guys talk to the social worker a lot. Like
he
loves
to email her.
Like she's your friend.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
She ain't your friend.
Oh, no.
So why are you talking?
No, back and forth with her.
We go no. A matter of fact, no. It's really like me and her go back and forth. It's not like we're buddies. She is terrible at communicating,
and he stays
because we had an issue with since the kids went over with my sister. Now they don't want us to really like have the supervised visitation with my sister and doing that. So they suggested either getting another relative to supervise our visits or pay for or get an agency to supervise our visits, but we out of our
Nick,
pocket.
Nick,
So yeah,
you need to talk to your lawyer about your communications with the social worker. It's one of those things where, you continue with the same strategy over and over and expect different results. That's called
right.
insanity. So talk to your lawyer about it. I don't want to tell you to do something that's contrary to him, but talk to your lawyer, and then, in South Carolina where you are, go get another, opinion.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look into that.
But I feel like if he was to say something to his lawyer, which he's always emailing him to,
Yeah,
he's got to have that.
Well, you need a new lawyer then. You need to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just really feel like, I feel like he would sit here and say right now that, well, what do you expect? That's that's a caseworker or something like that. I don't know.
He was really good in the beginning, but I really think that since this whole the case basically got extended out some more, and then we got these new allegations, all this with the kids or the kid testing positive again. He's just, I don't know, he's just kind of like changed.
He's probably lost faith in you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's exactly how it feels.
That's what it is. He's kind of lost all effort of trying to help.
People forget lawyers are human beings.
Right.
They have the same weaknesses that everyone else has, the same strengths. So, I mean, he's probably lost faith. Now, in your life, you look like you're about, 30 years old?
Almost. I'm 27.
Okay. So, you've had experiences. How do you convince a person to have faith in you and to work for you and to fight for you? You can do it. You just haven't done it. And I'm going to tell you something. My grandmother, who died at 102 and who raised me, used to tell me, and I didn't learn this lesson until I was about 45 years old. You get more bees with honey. I hated to have to accept that. So just keep that in mind.
I will keep that in mind.
All right. Hey, you guys, any last questions you want to ask me?
Is there anything you could think of?
Yeah, I've got a lot.
There's a lot.
Well, let's go.
What do you? I'm trying to think. There was another thing I wanted to talk to you about.
Can I ask you something?
Of course.
My lawyer is non-existent. I tried to fire her, and I did, and I went and signed the paper. And then we had court literally, when was it? It was like in a couple of days, and I didn't want it to turn out like that, happening that way, but it ended up being that way. It got so bad with her that I felt like she works with DSS. I can't even explain it. She was just a horrible, horrible lawyer, but there was no communication. She wasn't answering my phone calls. She wasn't like responding to my texts. Sometimes she would text me out of the blue, but we had court coming up for that last hearing about the kids getting out of foster care, going with his sister. And at the court hearing, she came and had to basically stand up to tell the judge that I wasn't wanting to be represented by her anymore. And I was hoping maybe that would have put the trial off, but it didn't. She kept going with it and asked me if that was okay to represent me for that day. And so I don't know. Me and my lawyer ended up keeping each other, I guess. But I've not even heard from her since the trial.
Have you looked at perhaps hiring a private lawyer?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to if the funds were available.
Well, you'd be surprised. Call around in your area and find out how much they're charging.
I was hoping maybe to find one with a payment plan or something.
Yeah,
see if I could look into that.
Yeah, we actually did look recently. We just haven't had really the chance to follow up with it. I'm gonna get back on that hunt this week actually, because I think they're doing this like 60 days from the last court hearing, which was December the 19th. So I think they're going to give it till probably March or so before we have to go back. And basically, they're just going to, see how, the kids transitioning over to my sister. And because my sister had certain, guidelines as well and orders that she had to follow. And basically, that was, they were, which DSS and all them, they were all in an agreement about just about the grandfather, but kind of put other things to the side that had still played into that.
Mm-hmm.
But their main focus or order was for my sister not to have the children around the boys at all with the grandfather.
There's something else I want to recommend to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very serious recommendation I'm about to tell you. On my YouTube channel, there's a video called What is Justice? And I'm standing in front of a whiteboard. I actually think there are 2 videos by that title, but the one I want you to watch is about 7 minutes and change. And I'm standing in front of a whiteboard talking to I'm talking to a woman who's a client who made this video. I need you to watch that video.
Okay.
Because I can tell from talking to you, some of the things that you think or believe aren't true. And, sometimes on the decision tree process, when you make that wrong turn, everything you do after that is going to be tainted or mistaken. And you're going to wonder why things aren't working. And it's probably because of a decision you made, 3 weeks ago or 3 months ago. You just don't realize it. Because most people, especially males, think in a methodical way. They think in that decision tree process way. Women are smarter than us. They think horizontally. We think vertically. So watch that video, because it's going to explain some things to you that I think you're going to be surprised about.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. Yeah, I was actually telling my wife, I was like, we got to watch that video. I already know. It's funny you bring that up, because I told her, I said, we got to find that video, because you talk about it or pull those videos up all the time.
Right. Well, yeah. The reason why I talk about that is because a lot of people, and I can just tell from talking to people, have the wrong perceptions. They think that justice is what they know justice to be.
Right.
And that's the furthest thing from the truth. It's just not true. But if you're operating on that assumption, you're screwed up. Yeah.
No, I've actually starting to realize that now, with everything that has happened. That's why I've kind of now backed off a little bit.
And mostly it has come from you, from us learning basically I don't know, most of the stuff that
we're not trying to cause drama. We're not trying to cause more problems. We want to do what we need to do and get our children back. That's plain and simple. It's just we're lost. We don't know, what other steps do we need to take to do that. That's the only thing.
Do you have you ever heard me say that most cases are won outside the courtroom? You ever heard me say that?
I don't think so.
Okay. Then you haven't watched as many videos as I thought you had. Most cases are won outside the courtroom. They are not won in the courtroom. Right? The court system is not set up, in my humble opinion, to your advantage. You know, in my state, the county and the CPS gets away with so many things because it's in the interest of protecting children. Parents, whole different system. I'll give you one example. In California, social workers can use hearsay and multiple hearsay in court, in the reports. You can't. Now, in my opinion, that's the most unfair thing I've ever heard of.
Yeah, it is.
But our Supreme Court has explained to us why that's the law. And although I don't necessarily agree with everything, I mean, they're the Supreme Court. We got to go by their law. They make the rules. One of the things the rationale is, they said that social workers are neutral and unbiased. I don't agree with that. Now, and heaven forbid if Miss G hears me say this, I'm not saying that all social workers are bad. I'm not. In my 30-some years of doing these cases, have I ever met good social workers? Yeah, I have. Have I ever met bad social workers?
Oh,
yes. And you know, I don't usually get a call unless you got a problem social worker. Because if you got a good social worker, there's no need to call me. There's no need to pay me money. Right?
Right.
Think about it. Hey, Ariel, this is the other thing I was going to tell you. There is a woman by the name of Cynthia Becker. Have you ever heard of her?
I watch her.
Okay, you watch her? I want you to get in touch with her. Okay. Cynthia was a client. And she got her kids back. She was a host on CPS The Horror Stories for a very long time. She left, and I think it's been about 2 or 3 years maybe. She's back. All right. She has a lot of experience, just from her own personal experience about working with me and one of my other attorneys. And she's talked to a lot of people. And I think that she can give you some insights. See, I've never had my kids taken away. That's never happened to me.
Right.
I was investigated by CPS when my kids were young. That's a whole another story. Kind of funny. But the case went no place. They never took my kids away from me. I can only imagine what that must be like.
Terrible.
Yeah. I get it.
And it feels so helpless, like that you really don't know where to turn. Like you feel like everyone's against you.
Right. And that's the problem. Because you become psychologically and emotionally kind of defeated. But that's normal. I understand that. But, you know, we used to do a show, and I should talk to someone, Miss G or Cassandra or Cynthia. We really need a show where we motivate the parents who are going through this, where we try to talk to them and help them.
I think that's the only thing that's maybe given us a little bit inch of hope is maybe watching you. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that, but keep watching.
Oh, absolutely.
Keep watching. And if you ever need to talk to any of us, email us, contact us. Let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most of the people that are working with me on these shows on social media, they don't do it for pay. They do it because they're trying to make a change.
I really like that about you guys. Y'all taking, the time out of y'all's day every day,
right.
And have people come on and share their stories. I think that's awesome.
So you know, knowledge is power.
Yeah,
Keep moving forward.
of course.
Did you guys have any other questions?
Um,
If you do, go ahead. It's Sunday morning. I'm
I'm,
not going anyplace.
there's probably a lot. I just can't think of them on the top of my head.
Is there
Okay.
anything? Is there anything else that you suggest that we could do further besides the 388 and second opinion and other stuff that you did suggest? Is there anything you can think of that I
Well,
could do?
yeah, you remember I told you about Googling and finding out about these
Yes.
exposure tests,
Uh-huh.
asking for a second test.
Yes, I got that written down.
I had another question. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's really a gamble, I guess. But with it being the basically the second time where they had to extend the case out. I mean, I'm just trying to wonder. I'm wondering, is there, you know, any type of fighting chance that we could get our kids back? I mean, we're not bad parents.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah,
You can get your children back. Will it be easy
yeah,
at this
no,
stage? No,
no,
no. But, like most people, I get the feeling that your children are the most important things in your life.
they are.
So this is the biggest fight of your life.
Yeah,
It's
it
not
is.
it's not over.
That's not going to be over. I'm not going to let it be over.
Hey, I told this to somebody else the other day. Several months ago, we had a person on this show, a mother, who had her parental rights terminated, and she lost her child. She never gave up. And it's a long story and a long journey. 5 years later, I refer her to a lawyer, a friend of mine. They get her kid back and her rights reinstated.
Wow.
Okay? Now, the planets had to align the right way on this one, as you might imagine, but never give up. This woman is one of the most focused people I've ever talked to. And someone was telling me about a book that I read many years ago, and I think it's called As a Man Thinketh. Very famous book. You probably get it free on Google Books. As a Man Thinketh. This lady thought her way into getting her kid back. It became a mantra. And the human mind is a very powerful thing. So please, there is hope.
Do you remember suggesting a book, The Art of War?
I do.
I went and rented that at the library about a month ago, and it sat in my purse, and I haven't read it. Just saying.
Okay. All right. I mean, what can I say? But I will tell you this. I think you should read that book. It's going to take you a while. It's a hard read.
Yeah,
It was written. It was written like maybe 3,000 years ago in Chinese, and you're reading some English conversion. You know what you can do that might be easier? There are YouTube videos on it. So if you want to watch the YouTube video instead of read it, do that. But it's a hard read,
It's an effort.
Yeah.
But you know what I recommend for you, Nick?
What's that?
There's a book. This book changed my life after law school. I think I was 3 years out of law school. And somebody recommended to me. It changed my life completely. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I bet you could get the free version from Google Books as well.
Okay.
All right. You read that book and you implement it. It'll change your life. It'll change this case.
Okay.
Change this
What
case
is it
all
called?
the way. How to
Say
win,
that one more time.
What is it
How
called?
What's the book called?
okay. How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Okay.
Got it.
in life, most things that you accomplish are going to be based upon relationships and your ability to influence someone, persuade someone. Okay. Read this book and it'll tell you all about it. The guy that recommended this book to me, maybe the third time in my life, I really respected him for a lot of different reasons, and I actually read the book. But one of the things that he told me I had to do, and I've done it, every year I read the book over, because it's so easy to forget the principles and the rules that Dale Carnegie lays out. It's one of those things you got to constantly work on.
Okay.
You guys, that was over 20 years ago. 25 years ago.
I'll definitely check that book out.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me know.
All right. Well, if you guys want to come back on the show, keep us updated or anything, let me know. Ariel, please reach out to Cynthia Becker.
I definitely will.
All right. Okay, you guys, I want to thank you, Ariel and Nick from South Carolina, for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Have a great Sunday. And we'll see everyone tomorrow night at 7 p.m.
All righty.
Thank you, Mr.
Have a
Davis.
good day.
Bye, Mr. Davis.